In our first headline, JLo's engagement ring is worth $1 million. But for the rest of us, are diamonds more of a frenemy to the financial lives of young couples and others in love rather than a girl's best friend? And in our second headline, wanted shoppers with lousy credit, why retailers are going after customers with shaky credit, but they may know something the rest of us don't. Those two headlines plus the big idea tying them all together and so much more on today's Money in the Morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning. I'm Bobby Rebell from the Financial Grown Up Podcast, coming to you from my very grown up kitchen in New York City. My partner, Joe Saul-Sehy, who usually joins us from his mom's half-finished basement, is out today helping her move her piano, of course. This is the podcast where we cover two recent stories ripped from the financial press. Not only do we read them, like some podcasts, but we get into why they matter to you, and then we wrap it all up with a big idea at the end of the show that you can take with you and make your own. Money in the Morning is brought to you by Tiller. Manage your money 10 times faster in a spreadsheet with Tiller, the only service that connects your banks to Google Sheets and Excel with your daily spending, transactions, and balances. Go to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller for more information. All right, here we go, guys. Let's turn it to Laura with the headlines.
Here come two headlines ripped from the financial press. Only at Money in the Morning.
Our first headline today comes from MarketWatch. The writer is personal finance editor Quentin Fautrell, who is also a pro picker on Quartz, on the Quartz app, which I am also on as well. He's often one of the favorite ones, so look for him there if you're on the Quartz app. He also obviously writes for MarketWatch. And this story is about JLo's engagement ring. It is reportedly worth $1 million. The question, Mr. Fautrell, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Quentin, is it time to ditch the diamond? Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez got engaged over the weekend. Her engagement ring is reportedly worth over $1 million. All right, the article begins, love-struck couples still mark their engagements with diamonds, but should they find a less expensive way to start their lives together? Singer Jennifer Lopez and Alex Rodriguez, a former professional baseball player, announced their engagement over the weekend. And Lopez showed off her square-cut diamond engagement ring to her 88.5 million followers. Lifestyle magazines have been asking jewelers to pitch their estimates on how much the ring might be worth. Assuming the ring is 15 carats, colorless, and of pristine clarity, it could be worth $1.4 million, one jeweler told Cosmopolitan magazine. Others speculate the ring could be worth multiples of that. Other couples put less emphasis on diamonds. Nearly 1 in 4 millennials said they would have no problem selling their engagement ring to pay for a house or college, according to a recent survey by WP Diamonds. Less than 1/4 of older generations feel the same way. This tallies with a slew of studies that conclude young Americans value experiences over stuff. They don't feel tied by the same social conventions as their parents or even older siblings. Extravagant diamond rings are a relatively recent phenomenon. The social expectation for engagement rings was actually created by diamond and jewelry companies in the first half of the 20th century. And it later became a tradition in movies, using Hollywood to promote it. Interesting. Giving a diamond ring to mark an engagement goes back to the A Diamond is Forever campaign by the De Beers Diamond Company, which trademarked the sentiment. It was written by copywriter Francis Garrity in 1947. Quote, if the advertising industry didn't promote diamonds as a girl's best friend for engagements, what person or institution would issue a decree that meant all men must buy diamonds? The Dalai Lama, the Pope, Emily Post, Oprah, God? Only spend as much as you can A, afford, or B, think is prudent, experts advise. If the advertising industry didn't promote diamonds as a girl's best friend for engagements, what person would buy it? There is no definitive or infallible source. You could put that money towards a down payment on a home or a trip of a lifetime. Perhaps more meaningful than that, simply give your partner one of your own most treasured possessions. There's a good reason to think twice about spending thousands of dollars on a ring. 1 in 5 households has zero or negative wealth, according to a recent report by the Institute for Policy Studies, a progressive think tank based in Washington, D.C. What's more, an even greater share of African American, 30%, and Latino, 27% households are underwater financially. The combined impact of a $1 trillion in credit card debt and $1.5 trillion in student loan debt and stagnant wages are taking a toll. Those who use wedding organizers and wedding websites are likely to spend more than a couple who go it alone. That's interesting. And don't consult experts in the wedding industry. Men, guys, listen to this. Men are spending more on the ring than ever, an average of $6,351. That is up 25% from 2011. A 2017 survey of 14,000 U.S. adults who are engaged or recently married and use the wedding website than not. The poll also found that most women know how much her husband spent on the ring. When it comes to everything else, however, Americans are either cheap or thrifty. 36% of people say couples should spend at least $1,000 on an engagement ring, and 19% said between $1,000 and $2,999. That according to a 2016 survey by Go Banking Rates. 45% though said you should spend more than that. In fact, a large portion of those, oh my gosh, guys, believe money should be no object. So I'm interested to see what our crowd here on Facebook Live thinks about that. It's a tricky thing. So one thing is that a friend of mine, millennial money expert Stephanie O'Connell, recently got engaged, and she has been talking a lot about this topic. In fact, she has a very good YouTube channel you guys should check out at Stephanie O'Connell. And we did a video talking about this whole debate on engagement rings and what you should spend, because Stephanie actually gave hers back. She, as the article said, many millennials, she feels that way, that she wants to spend the money on other things, whether it be an experience like her honeymoon, or even just having a stronger down payment for a new house, just getting her life as a married woman with a strong foundation. She did not want that. So I think that is something that is accurate in the article for sure. And let's see, we do have some comments from our Facebook Live audience. And for those of you that are listening to the audio version of this, come join us. We tape live on Facebook Live. You can go to facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. If you want to be part of it, just sign up for the alerts and you can get a sense of when we are taping. And as you will see, we take comments live from our Facebook Live audience. So you can be part of the show. So please do join us. All right, we have a comment from Greg here, and he says, I think every couple should be required to assemble their IKEA bedroom furniture prior to getting married. Truly the best way to tell if they'll be with you through the tough times. That may actually, truthfully, be a better indicator than getting a really fancy engagement ring. Oh, Stephanie, oh my goodness. Stephanie is actually with us. Stephanie O'Connell has joined the show. And as I mentioned, she just got engaged relatively recently. And she did not want to have the engagement ring because she just felt there was a better way to use their financial resources. And as I said, also, she did make a video on that she has posted on YouTube, and everyone should check out. All right, let's get to some other comments. So Kevin is weighing in here. He says, this is a ridiculous waste of money, in my opinion. It's interesting how the sentiment is changing, though, because it used to be, well, it still is in many circles, a real sign of status to have a large or flashy engagement ring. In fact, when you go to buy an engagement ring, they'll actually talk to you about certain cuts that will look bigger or more pristine than other cuts and ways to do that. But I do think that with the millennial generation, as a general trend, and there's exceptions to everything, there's a lot more acceptance of not only not having an engagement ring, but also maybe doing different things, having a colored stone or having something else of meaning that is going to both not break the budget and also create a sentiment and a memory from that time. So full disclosure, I have an engagement ring that is a diamond. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm not getting rid of it. I love it. But what I love most about it is the memories of that time when my husband and I got engaged, and we picked it out. And that's very special. Had it been a different ring, it would probably be just as special. So if you have one, there's no reason to feel differently about it. It's still that wonderful memory. But for the younger generation, they're just creating memories with a different object. And at the end of the day, it's really just an object. All right, we have some more comments from our audience here on Facebook Live, which you guys can join if you want when you want to. Facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. We have ZZ joining in. She says that she is on husband number 3, and she's glad she didn't stay frugal on all of them. And the question, of course, ZZ, for you is what happened to the rings when the marriage has ended? That's an interesting thing. Usually treated as a gift. I bet Stephanie O'Connell has some data on that as well. Let's see what else we have. I think we had one other comment. Oh, we did have Kimberly. Let's get Kimberly into the show. And she actually has a comment on that topic of divorce. What do you think celebrities do with the rings if they divorce? I remember J-Lo's ring from Ben Affleck getting a lot of hype. And of course, it did get a lot of hype. We don't really know. Maybe we can Google that and figure out what happened to that, because I believe they never actually got married. I'm not sure about that, but we will do that. And by the way, speaking of J-Lo, didn't she have a song that said, "My love don't cost a thing"? It may not, because I think she is fully financially independent and absolutely does not need anyone else's money. But it's a very nice ring. So maybe that's just what her fiance wanted to get for her. And of course, they should do what they want to do, as everyone should. Couple more points I want to make before we move on to our next headline. And that is, if you are going to buy whatever ring you're going to buy, whatever object you're going to buy to give your love when you get engaged, make sure that you have also factored in the cost to insure it. That's something that you can add to your homeowner's insurance, your homeowner's policy as well. And I also want to touch on the marketing, because as I mentioned in the article, the whole notion of a diamond is forever and all of that is made up by the advertising industry to make us want specifically diamonds versus, let's say, some other kind of stone or some other token of our love when we get married. This rule of thumb of 2 months' salary is, again, made up. So ignore that. Focus on what you can afford. The idea of diamonds being scarce, also made up. And also another thing to consider these days, if it's right for you, is that they can now grow diamonds in a lab. And that may be considered more politically correct, because there is a lot of controversy around blood diamonds and the terrible things that do happen in some areas in the fight to get the diamonds and the value that goes with the diamonds. So there's a lot of backlash against diamonds because of that. And you can now get lab-made diamonds, which is an interesting thing. And we'll see how that market develops and how people react to it, because they are supposed to be the same in terms of their actual structure, but yet they didn't grow in the ground the same way. And maybe people that are really feeling like they need a legit diamond aren't going to go for it. Let's go to our takeaway from this, and that is the sparkle in your partner's eyes is priceless and it is free. So the truth is, get whatever makes sense for you as a couple. I love my ring. That's what made sense for us. It's a symbol of a time that's very special and a relationship that's very special. So that's what matters. It doesn't matter really what that symbol is. Whatever works for you. Again, the sparkle in your partner's eyes is priceless and free. And oh my goodness. All right. We're just gonna quickly just to follow up on ZZ that talked about her being married 3 times. She says she hocked the first one, still has the second one to give to her daughter. And then she is still married to number 3. And then she got a very simple ring. So I think it says a lot that in her third, and let's call it final marriage, ZZ. We're going to call it your final marriage. You are sticking with a very simple ring. So I think that's a really great thing to do with your forever husband, right? Let's move on to our second piece, which is about retailers wooing customers with lousy credit. And this is by one of my favorite reporters over at the New York Post, Lisa Flickenshire. And I botched her name, but I know her and I adore her. She's a very good retail reporter. And her piece at the New York Post begins with retailers, including Walmart, Forever 21, Urban Outfitters, and thousands of others, are suddenly hot for the 68 million Americans traditionally considered risky borrowers because of their track record of not paying their bills or their lack of credit histories, including credit card adverse millennials. Enter a bevy of fintech companies that have sophisticated algorithms to better predict who will pay up, and shoppers with bad or no credit are in high demand. The companies are also assuming the credit risk if companies default. One newcomer Zebit, generated $44 million in sales last year and is on track to reach $100 million this year. That, according to its chief executive, Mark Schneider, who is raising $20 million on top of the $39 million that Zebit raised in 2015. Zebit, which bills itself as the Amazon for the underserved, that's nice ambition there, okay, is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing this year to differentiate itself as the only company targeting risky consumers that is also not, quote, predatory. But it has plenty of competition for the mantle. In February, Walmart inked a deal with Affirm, a payment option at checkout that allows shoppers to pay for purchases in installments from 3 to 12 months, with the interest disclosed as a dollar amount rather than as a percentage. And that is something that I really like. I think that it is more transparent. I do agree to see the actual dollars that you will be paying rather than a percentage. And that is something that a lot of credit card companies are now doing on their bills. Okay. The article goes on to say Affirm is among a growing group of companies, including Afterpay, QuadPay, Klarna, Uplift, and Splitit, that claim to be more transparent about the fees and interest they charge. They are touting a similar business model, layaway with a twist. Shoppers get the goods up front instead of after they finish paying. The race for risky shoppers is being driven by the strong economy, industry experts say. Quote, the prime market can only grow so much, so lenders are interested in getting more consumers into the pool, especially when times are good. Ted Rossman, an analyst at creditcards.com, which tracks the card industry, said. Of course, the new system comes with a cost. Quote, and this is from payment card consultant Robert McKinley of RAM Research, telling the Post, quote, most of these programs are looking for consumers who are bad at math. There's a red flag there, guys. They generally charge 20% to 30% more for merchandise and may carry additional hidden costs. Most of these programs are Zebit says it makes no secret about the fact it's not a discounter. Quote, we tell the customers ours is not the best price. Our biggest challenge is overcoming the perception that this is too good to be true because the whole industry is about bait and switch. On some items, particularly electronics, it charges significantly more. So here's an example, guys. A Series 4 Apple Watch costs $517 from Zebit compared to $399 from Apple, while a 150-piece Stanley tool set costs $117 on Zebit compared with $99 at Walmart. Consumers also have to disclose personal information, including their income and employment, to start shopping, which Zebit says it needs to help keep defaults in check. Quote, that's our secret sauce, says Schneider, who touts Zebit's default rate at between 12 and 15%, compared with typical subprime rates of up to 50%. The biggest risk, though, is saddling poor consumers with new debt that would be hard to pay off when the economy tanks. Quote, this is a quote from the gentleman from creditcards.com. Buy now, pay later is a dangerous spot to be in for the consumer. So let's just unpack that a little bit. So let's talk, let's see some comments from our audience, beginning with Greg. Greg says, it definitely feels like with all the data on us out there in the world, we have an out-of-date way of determining a person's credit worthiness. Well, I think that's a really good point because what they're saying here in this piece is that by using updated data and more sophisticated algorithms and techniques to more accurately assess someone's credit worthiness, they get a default rate that's down to between 12 and 15%. Versus the traditional high-risk credit default rate of 50%. So that's a massive improvement that they're able to get just by better assessing people. And if you do deserve a better credit assessment, whether it's your direct credit score or other ways that they're assessing it, that's actually a good thing because you should be able to borrow money if you are responsible and you can pay it back. You should have that choice to make. It's a grown-up choice, as they say. So I think, number one, it's really interesting that they do have more intel on us than before, and that can be a positive thing. We talk a lot about the negatives of companies having more information on us, but the truth is there are upsides for us. And in this case, if you want to work with some of these companies, you do have to disclose more than you may like, so that's a personal choice. Another interesting point is that they're disclosing the dollar amount, at least in the case of Affirm. And I do think that makes it more clear. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good deal. And in fact, they're very clear it's not a good deal. I mean, the truth is, for some of those electronics that they were talking about, it's a terrible deal. You're clearly paying more. I mean, what I would equate this to is, I know when I go into a store, I am a sucker for a sale. So if something is on sale for, 25% off, that's going to be really enticing to me, especially let's just make up a number. Say it's $100 and it's now 75. That sounds great. What if you went into a store and you had something that was the full price was marked out, and instead of saying it was $100 for that object, it was $125. In other words, it wasn't, not only was it not on sale for you, but you were going to have to pay $125 for it just because you were considered a risky buyer. Well, that would probably be a big turnoff. So if people looked at it this way, maybe they would just say, I don't want to buy that object using that item using credit. Maybe I'll pay cash, or maybe I'll just wait till my credit gets better, or maybe I'll just not buy it at all because maybe there's a reason why your credit score is not where you want it to be. So those are things to consider. And yeah, just and also a lot of the objects that they're describing are things that you don't really need. So really think about that. Let's get some more comments from our Facebook Live audience. Dylan says, with Afterpay, there is no credit check. They pass a good bit of the liability into the credit card company that you signed up with. So they charge you a late fee. So you're more likely to authorize the credit card payment to go another 30-day threshold. That's interesting. I don't fully understand how that works, but I think that it's a good point that they are offloading some of the risk, and that may make it available to more people that don't have terrific credit. And we have another comment from Paul. He says, unfortunately, people will not care as long as they can get the phone or item. That is really on point, Paul, because the truth is a lot of times they just want the phone and they think that maybe they'll pay it off before they pay the interest. Usually doesn't work out that way, but that's what they're thinking at the time. And they want the phone or whatever the object is. They want the Apple Watch. They want it now. And as opposed to layaway, where they're at least going through the exercise of waiting for it until they actually pay for it. So even though with layaway, they often, pretty much always are going to pay more, you're still not paying this lagging interest after the fact of you get the item. And then as with many things, once you get it, you kind of forget about it. It loses its shiny newness, and then it's not all that exciting. So let's get to our takeaway, and that is that, remember guys, retailers are not your friend, so don't let them dictate your spending. Their goal, of course, is to get you to buy the item. They don't really care if you pay it off now, later, whatever. The credit card companies or whoever's lending you the money, they're very happy to collect the interest. Of course, they don't want you to default. That's not good for anybody, but they're very happy to charge you often very high interest rates to lend you the money in advance in order to buy something that you don't necessarily need. All right, before we move on to the big idea, we do want to touch on Tiller, because Tiller is a system that can help you organize all of your finances, and you can have a better sense of how much money you have if you're organized and you have it all laid out. Money in the Morning is brought to you by Tiller, and it is 10 times faster in a spreadsheet with Tiller. If you want to be managing your money, you can see it all laid out, because what they do is they connect to banks and they can put all of your data either in Google Sheets or Excel with your daily spending, your transactions, your balances. You can get a real good sense of what you have available to spend, what you're saving, where your money is. And then you can make the right decision for you, not dictated, as we said, by retailers, by credit companies, by lenders. What's right for you in terms of your spending and your asset allocation and where you want to put your money. So if you want to learn more about Tiller, go to stackingbenjamins.com/Tiller. And of course, if you do sign up with them, we do get a thank you from them. And we thank you for that because that helps to support the show. All right, let's move on to the big idea. And that is money and emotions should not mix. We need to keep a straight head and focus on what is right for you financially when it comes to your financials. Don't get your emotions in the mix. You can be all caught up about getting engaged and excited about your life together and everything around that. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about the two of you and your relationship, not about what object you choose to symbolize the engagement, the change in your life and the future that you're planning together. I think it's nice to have some kind of object, but it doesn't have to be a diamond ring just because the diamond industry dictated that. I mean, now it's almost a century ago, I guess, that they came up with a catchphrase. And certainly you don't need to feel pressured to spend money that you don't have. And then also, if you don't have great credit, Don't let retailers tell you that you should spend money that you don't have just because they're going to allow you to. They're not the ones that are going to pay the bills when they come due, and they'll come due over and over and over again. Just because they're being more transparent with the money that you are going to be paying above and beyond the original price of the item doesn't mean it's a good deal. It just means you know it's a bad deal. So you shouldn't do it. Do what's right for you. With that, I'm going to say thank you to all of you. And if you guys want to live a rich life, you got to be financial grown-ups. Thanks for joining me.
This show is created by Joe Saul-Sehy, hosted and produced by Bobby Rebell and Joe Saul-Sehy, is engineered by Caden Thompson, and all put together by a pack of well-trained ferrets down here in Joe's mom's basement. You'll find Bobby at the Financial Grown-Up Podcast and Joe at the Stacking Benjamin Show. Go say hi to them there, too. Online, visit us on Twitter at Average Joe Money and at Bobby Rebell, or come join a live recording at our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. I know you already know this too, but Money in the Morning is for entertainment purposes only. You should not act on anything recommended by a bunch of entertainers in a basement or even a Manhattan kitchen without first consulting your financial advisor. And second, dude, have your head examined. Have headlines you'd like us to discuss? Send them to joe at stackingbenjamins.com or put them on our Stacking Benjamins closed Facebook group. This show is a collaboration of Stacking Benjamins LLC and BRK Media LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor Doug, and I reserve the right to always say, we'll see you next time back here on Money in the Morning.